What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. So we have an interesting one here. Now, as I will always point out, and I typically always do point out when it comes to trailer reviews that I do, I came across a trailer just happenstance, and it's for this film called In Vitro. And as you can see from the date of this article, this article was 8 months ago, but the trailer dropped a few days ago. And I haven't come across anyone reporting on the fact that the trailer dropped a few days ago. Now, as you can see here, this says In Vitro first look at Australian horror movie tackling biotechnology experiments. And this, from what I could, just glaze through, and I didn't read the article. I was just happening to look for any recent article, and this was the first one that popped up again 8 months ago. And you can see there's nothing to this here. It's literally just this first look image here, and that's it. And then again, the trailer for this, the official trailer for this, dropped just a few days ago. So we're going to read this article, even though it is very outdated, just to see what information is going to be in here, because I have zero context on this. And I typically do when it comes to trailers that I just happen to stumble across on, this being one of those. And as I just mentioned, I do try to go out there and find, has anyone recently talked about the film? Has anyone recently reported on the fact that the trailer just dropped? And for this one, again, nothing's been mentioned. So, and I think that's unfortunate, because I feel like I find more and more trailers just by either happenstance or just by, searching around or navigating around on the internet or on YouTube or what have you. I come across them, then I start diving into them and wondering, well, why was it 8 months ago this film was being talked about? Now all of a sudden they finally get an official trailer out and potentially a date, and now no one's talking about it. And I think that's unfortunate, again, because I think we lose out on a lot of good horror films, or just good films in general, or TV series, by the fact that these fall through the cracks, and again, nothing gets talked about them again. So, as we always do, we're going to run through this article. As you saw, it was pretty quick. I haven't read through it. And then we're going to jump over to the trailer, which, again, released just a few days ago, and see what this Australian horror movie about biotechnology experiments is going to be about. So, from directors Tom McKeith and Will Howarth, let's see here. The Australian horror movie In Vitro is headed to the American film market, and Deadline shares a first look image today, which, again, would just have to be this image here. Let's scroll back down. The exchange has boarded world sales on the film. Deadline also notes the exchange will introduce In Vitro to buyers at the upcoming American film market in Las Vegas. Again, keeping in mind, let me go back up. This was October 23rd, 2024. So it's been quite some time since this has been mentioned. Here's the plot synopsis for In Vitro. In a future where ecological disasters have ravaged the agricultural industry, Layla and her husband Jack live in isolation on their struggling cattle farm. While Layla longs for her son who is away at boarding school, Jack experiments with biotechnology that he hopes will save his family from financial ruin. But in an unsettling occurrence start to plague the property, their once loving relationship begins to unravel. Okay, so we have casting here, and then this last little bit, Deadline adds for context. In today's report, developed via the Sundance Screenwriters Lab, the film explores possession and manipulation against a stark Australian backdrop. Okay, so I mean, that sounds pretty interesting. I don't think we don't come across too many horror films related to biotechnology experiments. So that's going to be an interesting take on this particular film. And we are starting to see more and more films that are being done internationally, making their way over to the US. So it is possible, with this article being 8 months old, that this film may have already released in Australia, because that's the source, right? That's where it's originating from, or in other international markets, and it's just now making its way to the US. And maybe that's why the trailer just dropped a few days ago from a US perspective. But let's jump into the trailer and see what In Vitro is going to be about.
Biotechnology is faster, cheaper, and more consistent.
Business is failing.
I was thinking, Maybe I could take a few days off.
How come?
Just to have a break.
Break from what? Break from me.
Is everything okay?
You lied to me.
I was trying to protect you. I'm not going to throw away everything we've been working on. What do you think would happen if people found out about this?
I did everything he said. I didn't tell her anything.
System failure.
What the hell have you done?
People would pay a lot of money for this technology.
System failure. Application.
Everything's going to be better from now on.
System failure.
So that was an interesting trailer. I don't know if we can really decipher exactly where this is going to go. I can give my best guess. I'm wondering if they're in financial ruin. Based on the synopsis, they're heading towards financial ruin. And it was described as a biotechnology experiment. And as I'm wondering, because we saw at the very beginning, one of the cattle was bleeding from the nose. And as the trailer went on, it almost seemed like the husband, because we had like a zoom up of his eye, and then he's laying in bed, and all these other things then we really stopped seeing him. And then the end of the trailer, we see the wife with a rifle. I'd assume she's approaching him, and then she like pushes back, hit the top of his hoodie from his sweatshirt, and then has almost like this, I don't want to say shocked look, but a look on her face like, oh my God, what's happened? Because we also hear in the talk over, as it appears, a few of them are running through a field, that someone was mentioning, they'll pay a lot of money for this technology, or pay a lot of money for this, whatever. I'm wondering if the husband had been doing something where he was experimenting on the cattle, and then decided, either he had a breakthrough or something happened where he then decided, I'm going to, because we saw a couple times a syringe. I'm wondering then if he's going to use it on himself, and then something starts to change him, right? But the article let's go back to the article. Let me go back to the article real quick, because it did mention at the bottom, the film explores possession and manipulation against a stark Australian backdrop. So, I mean, possession would lead me to believe like demonic possession, religious horror, that type of thing. So I'm not sure if that's playing into this, because that wouldn't, based on what we saw, I wouldn't at all think religious horror, being possessed by a demon or an entity. I'm thinking he experiments on the cattle, then experiments on himself, and it might lead down to, I don't want to say body horror, but I mean that's where the biotech, experimental horror aspect comes in. Where now he's trying to attack her, kill her, and now she's having to save herself, and maybe the son that isn't there eventually shows up. It's one of those trailers where they give you enough to get you guessing and wanting to know what's gonna, in my opinion, to get you guessing and wanting to know what's going to happen, but doesn't give you hardly any information as to what is truly happening. And I think that's what makes this a good trailer. Let me look at the description of so it says available in select U.S. theaters and VOD and digital on beginning June 27th. So it actually comes out later this week for the U.S. I don't know about theaters. I haven't seen any theaters mentioning this, at least not in my area. But VOD and digital later this week. So I'm definitely adding this one to my list, and hopefully it's at a decent price. I might do a blind buy on this one as well. As I've mentioned before, typically if I find it pretty interesting and I'm pretty intrigued by it, I'll just blind buy it. If it's like between like 10 and 15 bucks, I'll just blind buy the film, because I don't want to rent the film for about $7-8, and then if I like it, then I'm just turning around buying it anyway. So, all right, so that's gonna do it for this quick horror trailer review, an Australian sci-fi horror. And again, this is a biotechnology experiments. called In Vitro, coming to VOD digital and maybe select US theaters, it looks like on June 27th. So drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Also, if you haven't done so already, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, we'll see you at the next one. Later.